Greetings everyone, I'm Mar. Once again, this is my opinion, and welcome to another movie review. As you can tell from the title, this is my review of the latest entry in the Mortal Kombat series, and their first outing into the animated directed-DVD field since the 90s with The Journey Begins. And I can honestly say, even with my few problems, this film a lot better than that. Whereas that one was just made to try to cash in on the marquee name value due to the games being at the height of their popularity, plus the live action film. More so the live action film because it was trying to be a tie-in, and it's even put on some of the Blu-ray copies of that film, and even had the making of. This one, it seems like they're trying to cash in on the market for the direct-to-DVD films. You know, Marvel's done some. DC seems to be the ones mainly doing it right now. And of course, since Mortal Kombat is owned by Warner Brothers, it's like, hey, we already do it with one of our properties, let's do it with the other property. And of course, it's NetherRealm Studios that does the video games for both, so win-win. There's the Blu-ray I got of Scorpion's Revenge. Also has a DVD as well. I watched the Blu-ray version of it. And Scorpion's Revenge is an apt title, although it does kind of connect with one of the issues with the film. Now, the film's two main plots, they weave in and out of one another, but the first one follows the standard plot that we see whenever they redo the Mortal Kombat timeline. We see our main heroes, Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, Sonya Blade. They have to make their way to Shang Tsung's island to compete in the Mortal Kombat tournament, the 10th one, to prevent Outworld from taking over, held by Shang Tsung. We've got to fight Goro, Raiden's there. You see each of those combatants make their way. We see Sonya dealing with Kano and the Black Dragons. Liu Kang, of course, sent there because Raiden. And, of course, Johnny Cage, being the prima donna Hollywood actor that he is, has to get there through his agent. Now, this one, unlike the live-action film where it's him trying to prove that he's not a fake fighter, it's because his career seems to be down on his luck, hasn't worked in a while, low on cash, and he's like, hey, I'll do it. Which makes for some interesting comedy, but it's like, they really made Johnny Cage a prima donna on this one. I mean, he was kind of an ass in the reboot and in his past self in the latest game, but it wasn't to this level, because at least then, when something serious would happen, he would at least start to take it seriously, and he actually believed it was real, whereas in this Johnny, up until a certain point, he thinks they're all doing a film or something, and it's like, really, Johnny, you're that delusional? You could say he's just trying to compartmentalize. And if he is doing that, it's like, more power to him, but he just is coming off as him being delusional. Some of it works for comedy, but after a point, it's like, really, Johnny? Really? More like The Miz, like, really? Really? Now, as this is going on, and they have to make their way through their fights, Scorpion is there. Now, it's his usual story. He's out for revenge against Sub-Zero. Quan Chi is thrown in there. The difference is that we actually get to see his family get killed. Only his son Satoshi, we see the aftermath for the rest of them. But it's a nice little scene. We get to see the anguish and pain as Sub-Zero kills his son. And then he gets killed and he literally gets sent to hell. The NetherRealm, we actually get to see him escape from it. So we actually have a story reason for why he has the spear chains. And his name, Scorpion, it's not just a code name for the Shirai Ryu. It's actually more of a story reason involving his son, which is a nice thing. We get to see his Faustian deal with Quan Chi. And like Legacy, it isn't Sub-Zero himself who did the deed, it is Quan Chi. So, like the more recent games, Scorpion will have his revenge. If there's one big flaw with the Scorpion plot, though, it's that when he does finally find Sub-Zero, the fight, he does take him out. It is done pretty quickly. But there's no back and forth at all, dialogue-wise. I mean, you could tell Sub-Zero's like, wait a minute, I didn't do that. But it's like, you're not even going to have any back and forth to where Sub-Zero tried to deny it and Scorpion goes, liar! That would have been a nice little moment. Especially since you already have Steve Blum in there voicing Sub-Zero, which he does voice Sub-Zero in the games, but he voices Kuai Liang, and here he's voicing Bi-Han. It's nice, but at the same time, it's like, really? You bring him in to voice a different Sub-Zero? But, oh well, I guess it works. And of course, because of how they do Scorpion's revenge plot, cutting back and forth with the main tournament plot, it makes the pacing of the film a bit off. And I think that's part of the reason why for the main tournament, they kind of make it feel like a literal race against time where they're running across the island, running from fight to fight to try to get to somewhere. Part of it reminds me of the second part of the tuning exams for Naruto, where they have to get to the forest of death within a set amount of time, doing fights in between. And of course, while they're running, they run into different people. I mean, Johnny Cage runs into Baraka. Sonya runs into Reptile. I mean, they're not addressed by name, but that's who they're supposed to be. I guess if they want to get around it, they could always say that they're members of the same species, but not the specific characters if they do a sequel, which I'm guessing this film is selling well enough that they will do a sequel. Hopefully they pace everything better, because it would be nice to actually see a tournament in tournament mode, because this running through the thing would work better when they're going through Outworld than when they're going across Shang Tsung's island. Maybe that's just I like the more traditional tournament style that we saw with the live action film, even though that was kind of derivative of Enter the Dragon, a film I still need to watch. Maybe that'll be the next film I watch. Have it on both DVD and VHS might as well. So another little minor issue that pops up because of this is Goro's defeat, which is going to be a spoiler for the film, so if you haven't watched the film yet, you might want to skip over this, and that is Liu Kang does not defeat Goro, which this is something that Gabo, Alex brought up when we were talking about the film a couple times, and that is there is no adaptation where Liu Kang actually beats Goro like he's supposed to. Think about it, live action film, it's done by Johnny Cage, of course, good scene, nut punch, and this is where you fall down, and then of course, those are $500 sunglasses, asshole. And then of course this one, it's Scorpion. Of course, his is kind of a sucker punch, but it's like, yeah, it's satisfying. I mean, spear to the back of head, skull ripped out, it's like, ooh, brutality. But it's like, really? I mean, Liu Kang did do pretty good against them at first, but then they did the whole, oh, quit playing around, and then Goro did a comeback. It's like, could have had it to where they were going mano a mano, and then Liu Kang probably would have won, but then Scorpion decided to sucker punch, have your cake and eat it too, but nope, they had to go that way. It's things like that that make certain fans of the series think that some of the people in the creative positions of this series do not like Liu Kang. I mean, they kind of redeem themselves with Fire God Liu Kang in the last game, but then they turn around and do something like this. Then again, they do kind of balance it out with Raiden's thing later where he says, your destiny wasn't to defeat Goro, it was to defeat Shao Kahn, which raises the point, if you can't defeat Goro, how can you defeat Shao Kahn? Unless, since it's 2 arms against 2 arms, maybe it'll be a bit fairer, or maybe he'll learn more before his fight with Shao Kahn. It's one of those things that you wonder. And the thing is, Shang Tsung doesn't even get a fight. That's another minor thing. I mean, Scorpion doing that thing and then him having to concede to Liu Kang, I could forgive a bit more if he had a fight with Shang Tsung, but nope. Shang Tsung just has to vacate the area, which of course, it is nice because we do get a moment of Raiden having to flex his power as a Thunder God, which is like, no longer bound by your rules, fools. Like, ooh, Raiden's about to be unbound. You don't want Raiden unbound. Because we've seen in the games what happens. I demand obedience. You came to the wrong hood, Shang Tsung. And then that brief shot we see of Shao Kahn, that's nice. That's why I do hope there is a sequel, just so we could see serious Shao Kahn in an adaptation, instead of being stuck with, it was glorious. The animation I think is pretty good. I mean, there were a few moments where it looked a little cheap, for lack of a better word. Kind of flash animation-y. But for the most part, it looked pretty good. I like the character designs that are basing it more on the recent interpretations of the characters, but it's slightly different to where it's its own thing, so it's its own multiverse, and I like it. The character interactions are pretty good, especially during the fight scenes. They were choreographed pretty well. I do like the back and forth between our 3 mains, especially how they start building the relationship between Sonya and Johnny Cage. Here, you're like, yeah, it's going to be hard to see them get together, but by the end you're like, I see it a little bit, but it still has a long way to go. And it is kind of funny that she uses his own trademark move against him at one point, which I got a good chuckle out of me. Given how much of a prima donna this Johnny is, he deserved it. Raiden, he's very stoic in this interpretation, speaks with a very low voice. And it also has me wondering, if they got Steve Blum to voice Sub-Zero. Why didn't they get Richard Epcar to voice Raiden? I mean, was there something with the contract they did have to get him? Was it not in the budget for this? Did they spend all of their top tier one on Blum? Or was he just asking for a lower fee? It's one of those things. Or did they just want to go in a different direction with his voice for this one? It's just kind of weird to hear Raiden talk and not hear Richard's distinct voice that has been the trademark of Raiden for the past few games. I know they've recast a couple characters a couple times through that, but Raiden's one of the ones whose voice has endured. I mean, in that whole thing, they could have gotten Tagawa back to voice Shang Tsung, which would have been nice. I mean, it would have been weird since we hear his voice but don't see his face like we do with the video game, but it would have been nice. You know, maybe a money issue thing. That being said, the actor who does voice him, Dave Mitchell, does do a decent job of voicing Raiden. And I'm just looking at his IMDb page. He's the voice of Geras in the latest game. So, see, they did get someone from the game to voice him. And his voice is different enough I wouldn't notice. Goro, of course, is voiced by Kevin Richardson. Of course, a lot of us will know him as the voice of Shredder from the latest TMNT cartoon. Not the CGI one, not the animated one. Of course, before that, he voiced one of the generals in the '07 film, and he's done other voice work. He has that deep voice to where it definitely fits Goro. Jordan Rodriguez, I think it's Rodriguez, but it's the one with the S. He voiced Liu Kang. He does a pretty good job. Greg Griffin was the voice of Kitana for the one scene she's in the movie. All it is a brief fight scene, and then she leaves after exchanging dialogue. Not really much to judge her on. Like her better as Catwoman in her other roles, but just work on it. Jennifer Carpenter voiced Sonya. She did alright. Joel McHale, Johnny Cage, Ike Amadi, as Jax. Pretty good. We mentioned Steve Blum. We got At Butler as Shang Tsung. He's no Tagawa, but he does a pretty good job voicing it. But I'd say I probably like his voice in the reboot game a bit better, but then again, you have more time to deal with that Shang Tsung, and it covers his entire plot line until Sindel brought back. But for what he has to deal with here, it's nice. And Robin Downs is Kano, and it also says Shinnok here, but I'm guessing that's just background one. Darian Paul is Quan Chi. His voice sounds pretty good. I mean, I still got the Quan Chi voice from X going through my head, so it's a bit harder to separate it, but he does a pretty good job as Quan Chi. Patrick Setz, if I'm pronouncing his name right, it's S-E-I-T-Z, as Scorpion. He does a pretty good job as well. You know, not counting the classic, get over here voice. My favorite voice of Scorpion has to be who they had play him in 11, but that's why I think that voice fits a resurrected, redeemed Hanzo Hasashi more than the voice he had in X. But then again, you could say that the one in X is more when he's more hot-headed after he comes back, whereas the one in 11 was when he's kind of calmed down a bit. Of course, this is not the first time he's voiced Scorpion. He voiced him in Injustice as well, so you know what to do when voicing this character. And he did do a pretty good job. Like, my favorite scene, of course, is his death scene. Just the raw emotion you hear in his voice. You're like, in his position, you'd probably want to kill the guy too, even if it turns out to be the wrong guy. And then other scenes, like the scene where he confronts Quan Chi, you really do feel that he wants revenge. And then, of course, when he finally does say, get over here, I mean, he could have said it a bit louder, but the emotion, I think, is what helps balance it out. If there's anything that balances out the issue I have with both how the story is paced and the fact that going from the revenge plot into the tournament plot back and forth in a weird fashion, it's the emotion from the characters. It helps balance it out a little bit, but part of me just can't help but feel that his revenge film should have been his own film. Maybe you see the other characters in passing in scenes where he interacts with them, and then the tournament proper be its own separate film. Like, maybe do the revenge film first, and then do the proper tournament film second. Or maybe just, you know, do your own little direct-to-video TV series, for lack of a better explanation, and then go from there. Because this is the best way I could think of to explain how the movie's paced. It's like if you were to take several episodes of an animated series, splice them together, and then cut out some scenes to make the flow a little bit better. Think kind of like how they did that one Gargoyles direct-to-video VHS. The only difference is that one I think is edited a lot better. And unless you know what scenes are missing, or watch the actual episodes afterwards, you're not going to notice anything that's missing because of how it's edited. Like I noticed when I watched one of the episodes involving when Elisa has to hide in the middle of the day from the agents and saw the additional stuff. I'm like, I don't remember that scene. I mean, it adds to the overall story, but it's not like anything would be missing. It just implied stuff happens off screen. Here, kind of feels that way, even though there's not a lot of scenes that you feel like are missing. It just, the pacing, it makes it feel that way. But even with that, it is a pretty entertaining direct-to-video film. I'm glad I have it. I do hope they make a sequel, and I do hope it's paced out a bit more. I haven't watched the special features that they did yet. I did watch part of one of them, but then I turned it off because it started playing inadvertently, and I was trying to find the controller before then. But definitely comes with my recommendation, whether you just rent it, buy it. It is definitely worth one watch, especially if you are a long time / and or Uber Mortal Kombat fan.